Two victims of Nathan Chasing Horse, the Dances with Wolves actor convicted for sexual abuse, are suing two Las Vegas hotels, accusing them of enabling his sex trafficking. The lawsuit names Boyd Gaming, owner of the Cannery Casino and Hotel, and Station Casinos, the operator of Santa Fe Station Hotel and Casino. It claims that the victims were trafficked at these hotels between 2014 and 2022, and that the hotel ignored clear warning signs that they were being abused. The suit also alleges the hotels gave Chasing Horse gifts and perks to keep him at their properties. It claims that the properties failed to implement or enforce anti-trafficking policies. And this comes just 2 days after Chasing Horse was sentenced to 37 years to life in prison after his conviction on 13 sexual abuse charges. The lawsuit echoes previous claims from prosecutors that Chasing Horse held himself out as a prominent spiritual healer in the Lakota tribe and used his position to exercise control over the plaintiffs. And we reached out to both Boyd Gaming and Station Casinos for comment on this lawsuit. Boyd Gaming tells Fox 5 it does not comment on pending litigation. So far, no response from Station Casinos.